Welcome back, everyone. So, I'm running a bit late with this week's video. I apologize for that, but as I mentioned last week, my backlog is drying up. In his effort to help with that, Bob basically tagged every damn thing under the sun, so I've been sitting here all weekend watching stupid shit and basically throwing out everything that bored the hell out of me. Videos that were so badly recorded that frequently you couldn't even understand what the hell they were saying. It might have been hilariously dumb, but I've no idea because the 747 running in their room drowned out everything they had to say. Tons of that, tons of people evidently recording themselves during an earthquake too, cameras shaking so bad they're only in the picture for 10 seconds throughout a 3-minute video. I mean, really bad shit that gave me a fierce headache. I couldn't in good conscience subject you folks to that crap. I do have some standards, as low as they might be. Which brings us to this one. As I'm sure you noticed by the thumbnail, good old Riley is back again. On this one though, it was very difficult for me to determine whether he's just stupid or if he's intentionally misrepresenting the argument. I mean, I'd very much like to say that Riley is just an ingenuous and deceitful cunt here, but he's decided to talk about poor people, and let's be honest, it's a pretty safe bet he has no fucking idea what that's like. So this could be just a result of his ignorance, combined with his desperate need to virtue signal. You can all decide that for yourselves. As usual, the link is in the description. But let's go ahead and take a look at this steaming pile of shit. And his video, too.
Alright, here's the thing. I have this really controversial opinion that poor people deserve nice things every once in a while. I think poor people don't have to be constantly suffering and struggling. I don't know why that's controversial, but here we are.
It's not. But hey, look! There's some more straw over there. Grab it.
You've probably seen these graphics from Fox News that everyone made fun of a few years ago where they were saying that poor people aren't really poor if they have refrigerators and microwaves.
Okay, so I'm going to have to do something I don't normally do and go a little bit out of order here. After watching Riley's super informative and thoroughly cited research here, I had a look at some of his sources. Now, I'm going to be fair here and say up front, they're not all bad, but this one made me outright laugh. Click the link to Fox News Says, and where does it go? Yep, the fucking Turks. Research right there, folks. Riley didn't go to Fox News to hear what Fox News had to say. He went to the Young Turks. Now, a tiny bone to pick here, but for starters, Fox News isn't the source of the original either. It was technically Fox Business, but I'll give you a pass there, same network and all. I'll just write that one off as a linguistic shortcut. I will also give you that it was very difficult to find the original source, being that it's 6 years old. I know. I tried. The best I could do is in the description. It's not from Fox Business, and thus I still can't be assured of its accuracy, but at least it's the full clip. As far as I can tell anyway, doesn't appear to be edited. But the real bone to pick here is using this clip at all. You see, this news story that Stuart Varney was covering is discussion revolving around a report done by the Heritage Foundation. That original report is easily located. Link is in the description. If you put your biases aside and read that report, what you'll find is not the shit on the poor narrative that Riley is portraying here. In fact, let me just put what Robert Rector actually said here, because he rather nicely wraps up what his point was.
But it doesn't do us any good as a nation to grossly exaggerate and misrepresent the living conditions of the overwhelming bulk of the 40 million people that are supposed to be poor.
Link to the original report is also in the description for those who want to read it. As with most things, Riley, you can't fix a problem until you understand the problem. And in this case, he is illustrating that the poverty problem in America is not the overly dramatic children starving in the streets and drinking out of mud puddle shit that the left keeps pushing. They aren't saying everything is glorious. They're saying it's not as bad as you think. But of course, virtue signaling twat nuggets like yourself heard the former and refused to hear the latter. American poor are actually still some of the richest people in the world. Mischaracterizing them and exaggerating the problem doesn't help anyone actually fix a fucking thing.
More recently, you may have heard about bills being proposed to stop poor people from spending food stamp money on soda, fast food, steak, lobster, all that kind of stuff. Or programs being put in place to drug test welfare recipients.
Oh boy, I just can't wait to see how you're going to misrepresent these.
To me, it seems like all of this stuff kind of stems from like two ideas.
Wait, one more time?
To me, it seems like...
Okay, that's what I thought you said. The telltale hallmark of an incoming straw man. Let's break this down, shall we? To you, meaning this is only your opinion, and seems like, meaning based on your feelings, not facts or actual reality. Pretty much what I expected from you, actually. Go ahead then, tell us what you feel other people think so you can argue with that instead of what people actually said.
The first is that poor people have to be in a constant state of suffering to really be poor. So if they have any kind of nice thing in their life, they're suddenly not poor and shouldn't be allowed to receive any kind of government assistance.
And no clips or examples of anyone actually having said that. Big surprise. What's number 2?
The second part of this is that people think they're entitled to morally dictate the lives of welfare recipients because technically they're being paid with taxpayer money.
And enter straw man number 2. Don't know anyone who's actually said that either, but let's see what you've got to say about your straw men before I set them on fire.
For the first part of that, I think people just have no concept of what it's like to be poor.
I was born poor, Riley. I grew up poor. My entire family still is poor. So I do have a pretty good idea of what it's like to be poor. You, however, I doubt it. Let's just say that anyone at your age with as much free time as you have to piddle around on social media and wander from protest to protest whenever it suits you, very likely doesn't come from a poor family, nor have they had to work very hard to get where they are now. You don't look like you've seen a day of real struggle in your entire life, Riley. Now, maybe you're just putting up a good front, but I seriously doubt it. People with real problems don't have time to sit around and make up new genders or pretend to be something they're obviously not. And they don't go to fancy liberal arts colleges to waste mommy and daddy's money on worthless degrees. If they go to school at all, they're very likely in business or tech fields because they're trying not to be poor anymore.
Like, a refrigerator is a pretty basic amenity in the US. You kinda need it to store food. I can imagine like 500 scenarios where someone has a refrigerator and is still struggling financially.
What a great point, Riley. Of course, no one said otherwise, but whatever.
It's not like a fridge is some opulent sign of wealth. You could easily be living paycheck to paycheck, barely being able to afford your rent and eating instant ramen for dinner every night, while still living in an apartment with a fridge.
So you can imagine 500 scenarios, and the one you go with is the one where that person doesn't need a fridge? Just FYI, and feel free to do whatever you want, Riley, but ramen doesn't need to be refrigerated.
But that's not the only thing. Like, a lot of poor families have cars. A car is often a necessity in areas that don't have a good public transportation system. And lots of jobs even discriminate against people who don't have a reliable form of transportation. So if a person or a family is able to save up for a car somehow, that doesn't automatically mean they're not poor anymore. You can be struggling financially and have some old beat up car that you use to get to work.
Another good point, Riley. Boy, you're really kicking the shit out of that straw man. Maybe you should have made him a little bigger. I'm not sure he's got enough stuffing to last for the whole video.
Things that may have once been luxuries are now relatively accessible.
Yes, Riley. That was exactly the fucking point Robert Rector was making. But surprise, surprise, it flew right over your fucking head when he said it because fuck the alt-right Nazi bastards that make the same point I just made. Wait, that didn't come out right. Let me try one more time. Fuck conservatives who say the same thing I do! Nope, that didn't sound right either. Apparently my mental gymnastics aren't up to snuff yet. I'll have to work on that.
Like smartphones, for instance. Lots of people seem to think that anyone who can afford a smartphone is not poor. But not every smartphone is a $700 iPhone. In fact, you can buy a smartphone on Amazon for like $50 now. And actually, lots of poor people rely on smartphones for accessing the internet. Because in the US, in 2017, you really need access to the internet to be able to function as a part of modern society. Internet access is essential for finding jobs, paying bills, doing your taxes, and just generally keeping up with everything that's going on.
No, it really isn't. I know you think it is because you probably haven't gone more than 12 hours without it your entire life, but trust me, Riley, the internet, as nice and convenient as it might be, is not essential. A few years ago, when I lost my job as a network tech for a big phone company, I went months without internet because I couldn't afford it. Not surprising, really. No job means no money, so I had to give up all non-essential things until I could find a new job. Guess what I didn't need to get a new job, Riley? That's right, the internet. It would have made things easier, sure, but it's not essential. You will not die without the internet, Riley. It sucks being without it, sure, but you won't die, you pampered little snowflake. Same goes for smartphones. Hell, I work a full-time job and still don't have one. Mostly because I don't fucking want one, but I get along just fine without it. They're not essential. This is how I know you've never really been poor. You have no idea what being poor is actually like, and yet you want to sit here and lecture everyone else about it? You're talking out of your ass, Riley.
But even if someone has a cheap smartphone, an old car, and a refrigerator, it's not like they're suddenly middle class or wealthy.
No, it doesn't. And no one said they were.
You can have all of those things and still have a job that barely pays enough to cover your rent. I don't know what people expect, like everyone who has a roof over their head is financially secure. That's just not reality.
No one said it was, Riley. I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot. Actually, let me go look for something real quick. Here we go. I'll just use this from now on when you attack that straw man.
Financial security requires a lot more than a refrigerator. It requires higher wages because that's what being poor is. It's an income level, that's it.
And yet again, that's what Mr. Rector said. Different words, of course, but same idea. See for yourself.
There really isn't any connection between the government's identification of poor people and the actual living standards.
Really starting to wonder if you listened to him at all, Riley. Well, actually, I know you didn't because that part wasn't on the Turks quote mining.
And if people want to splurge on some things using their very limited income, they have every right to do that. If someone manages to spend less money on certain things so they can afford a nicer car or a nicer smartphone, that's up to them. We all prioritize our money differently. Some people spend more money on entertainment, like video games and movies and going out. Others spend more money on their clothes or their makeup or their car. People are different and will prioritize things differently, even if they're working with very limited resources. I hate the idea that poor people all have to live the exact same life where they eat beans and rice and instant ramen every day and never splurge on anything and are constantly working and working and working to earn more money. People, regardless of their income level, deserve to feel joy sometimes. People deserve to relax and have some time to themselves. If someone has a bad day and wants to get McDonald's on the way home from work rather than cooking an entire meal at home, that's their business. If someone wants to relax after a long week at work by buying a video game or going out with their friends, they have every right to do that. Poor people shouldn't have to be in a constant state of struggle, suffering all day, every day for their experiences to be valid. Lots of people who are in a really tough spot financially will spend money on stuff that makes them feel good, and that's okay. Because people aren't robots. You can't expect people to never want to treat themselves. Mentally, we need to feel good every once in a while. We need to take care of ourselves, and sometimes that requires spending money on things that aren't technically necessary for survival, but are very necessary for living. And those things are subjective. Everyone has different things that they'll like and spend money on.
Jesus Christ, Riley. I'm gonna wear out this clip if you don't stop beating the shit out of that straw man. No one said any of this shit. So who are you arguing with?
But okay, so maybe you're okay with poor people spending their own money on that, but what about when they're on welfare? Because then they're spending your money.
They are spending my money, and my neighbor's money, and your money. Assuming you pay taxes anyway. Maybe you don't. Hell, I don't know. But they are spending other people's money. I don't know what the actual number is, and I can't be asked to bother finding out right now, but everything all divided up between all taxpayers and then divided up to each individual getting welfare, I'm pretty sure it's a fairly tiny number. But it is other people's money. So what's with the air quotes?
When we talk about welfare, we're usually talking about food stamps through the SNAP program or income assistance through the TANF program. Both of these things are relatively small chunks of the federal budget, but they're definitely still taxpayer funded. So shouldn't we have a say in exactly what poor people can buy with the money that's given to them through these programs? No, of course not.
Exactly what they buy? No, I agree with you there. But generally what they buy? Yes, absolutely. You see, Riley, it's about context. If you're struggling to feed yourself and I give you money to buy some food, I expect you're going to buy food with it. If you go out and spend that money on drugs, then come to me and ask for more money because you still can't feed yourself, I have every right to ask you what the fuck you did with the money I just gave you, and to refuse to give you more if you're not going to use it for the reason I gave it to you. And I'll go even further. If I give you enough money to buy food for a week, and you choose to blow it all on one fancy meal, I am not obligated to give you more money because you're hungry again tomorrow. That's you abusing my kindness. Or in the broader case of the welfare system, that's you abusing the system to live better than some of the fucking people paying for it. Can you see now why they might get a little upset with that shit?
Because those people still deserve autonomy in how they choose to spend their money. It sounds really dystopian to imagine a society where rich people spend their money however they want while giving a small percentage of their money to poor people and then dictating exactly how those poor people can spend their money because of that. Like, your employer, just because they pay you, isn't allowed to tell you what kind of food to buy or what kind of stuff you're allowed to spend money on. The same goes for taxpayers and welfare recipients.
Jesus Christ, Riley. You really don't see any difference between people working for their money and people being handed other people's money.
But at the end of the day, I know this isn't about following the money. It's about poor people. Because without counting military personnel, the government employs almost 3 million people. That includes US Postal Service workers, judges, congresspeople, and even the president. So it's weird that we have different standards for poor people being paid by taxpayer money and federal employees being paid by taxpayer money.
Apples for sale! Get 'em while they're orange!
Maybe instead of worrying if poor people are spending their fixed monthly welfare money on a $2 soda, we could instead worry about Trump's $1 to $3 million trips to his golf course every weekend.
You just can't get through one video without bringing up Trump, can you?
Or maybe we could require that all federal employees, including congresspeople, be paid minimum wage and not be allowed to buy anything except rice and beans and instant ramen.
Well, looky there. Riley and I finally agree on something. Well, the minimum wage part anyway. The rest is a bit over the top, but I like where your head's at, Riley.
I mean, obviously we shouldn't do that, but can't you see how ridiculous it sounds that everyone paid by taxpayer money has to live like that?
Hey, it was your fucking idea. No one else said that shit.
Oh, and one last thing, drug testing welfare recipients. Every program that has ever been put in place to do that has actually cost taxpayers more money because testing is expensive and they rarely ever catch anyone. I don't think I need to make a lengthy argument about that. The data is pretty clear.
Right. So, if preventing a problem is expensive, then we shouldn't do it. So, holy shit, that's expensive. No more welfare. Riley's rules.
But just on a moral level, I think it's wrong to deny someone money that they need for food or rent just because they smoke weed or something like that. Get over it. Let people live their lives.
You missed the point entirely, Riley. Let's make this as simple as possible for you, huh? If you can afford weed, you can afford your own damn food.
So yeah, basically it's not your job to tell other people how they spend their money.
We're not. We're telling them how not to spend ours, you fucking idiot.
Everyone, including poor people, deserves to be able to spend their money on whatever makes them happy.
Absolutely. But they do not deserve to spend other people's money on whatever makes them happy. Why in the holy fuck do you keep missing the goddamn point, Riley? It's so fucking simple. Okay, that's it. We finally made it through this long, twisting road of complete bullshit. Look, Riley, I don't know how in the fuck your brain works, or if it works at all, really, but other people's money is not the same as your own money. That's the fundamental principle involved in this entire discussion, and for whatever reason, you refuse to grasp that fucking concept. I really don't know how else to explain it to you other than to just say, my money is not your fucking money. If you want to spend your money on lobster and weed, that's your business, and I don't give a shit in the least. But when you spend your money on lobster and weed, then come to me and demand my money because you're homeless and starving, then you're not spending your money anymore, are you? You're demanding to spend mine and telling me that it's your right to spend my money however you like. Well, fuck you, Riley. You're not entitled to my money. I can tell you to go fuck yourself or choose to give it to you with conditions. Thanks to irresponsible bleeding hearts like you, I no longer have option number 1. Now you want to sit here and tell me that I have to remain quiet while you try to take away option number 2 as well? Fuck you, Riley. Fuck you very much. If it's so fucking important to you, then give them your money. Stop promising to give them mine. That's it for this time, folks. I'll see you all next time.